Welcome to the Traffic Domination Podcast, where entrepreneurs come for traffic answers. And here are your hosts, Rob Reese and Wayne Crow.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching and listening to the Traffic Domination Podcast. This is Rob Reese along with your main host, Wayne Crow. How's it going, Wayne?
Not bad, mate. How are you?
Listen, every time I hear the intro of our podcast theme, I get all pumped up. I get all revved up. And today, we absolutely need to be revved up. We need to have high energy on this one because the topic isn't the most sexiest of topics. However, it is absolutely pivotal that every single marketer doing business online is aware of this and is prepared for what is about to come on May 25th, 2018. Because as you know, Wayne, GDPR is right around the corner, right?
Yeah.
GDPR, what is it? Global Protection.
No.
What are the other? What is it?
Go on,
General
Chris.
Protection. General Data Protection Regulation.
There we go.
Lovely.
GDPR. Okay. You see, this is exactly why we decided to get our special guest on today. His name is Chris Harris. This guy is I can already tell he's brilliant. First of all, it's because he's got an English accent. I think every English person has immediately about 25 points higher of an IQ simply because of your accent, except for Wayne.
Thanks, mate. I sound like a farmer, I know.
But Chris Harris is a excellent person to speak to regarding these GDPR regulations because he's currently a consultant with company that is in charge of putting this information out there, and he's been living the laptop lifestyle for really the last 4 years in the UK, right? Am I right on that, Chris?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Okay. So you've been in the internet marketing industry for a little while now, and you let us know in your bio that your fiance is a gynecologist. Okay, that is let me say that is a very interesting thing to put on a bio. My wife is a gynecologist. Okay. What do you do? I look at vaginas. But
She ain't going to listen to this, is she?
No, she's on the line at the moment. But
we don't have her name. We've been protecting her name. But I do want to say before we get into the meat of this subject, guys, we are not legal professionals. We're not lawyers. So anything that you receive as information from here is meant to be taken with a grain of salt. We are not responsible for your legal advice or anything of that measure when it comes to privacy, e-privacy, or GDPR, although those things will be discussed on today's episode. Now, up until recently, okay, I was like, whatever about this GDPR stuff, okay? I'm an American. I'm a dumb American that doesn't really care all that much about these things unless it directly affects me. And then soon enough, I found out it's going to affect me. And I don't want some British guy from the British military or the EU military banging on my door claiming that I owe them $10,000. So first and foremost, give us a little bit of background on who you are, what were you doing before marketing, why we should listen to you, Chris.
okay, I've been in the UK financial advice industry, basically on pensions, and with a colleague of mine, we started a company up in 2007, and we did our marketing purely off the internet. So we were putting up special landing pages, etc., and that's where we collected our data from. That still continues to this day, Facebook marketing and online, and some offline marketing. Email marketing we found doesn't work for us, so we've stopped doing that now. However, we still use email. And obviously in that sort of area, we collect a hell of a lot of data off people. Yeah. So these regulations are pretty onerous. on the companies that do any financial advisor in the UK, or the EU for that matter, because it is EU-wide, and that's it. However, for pure marketing online, which you guys are into, things are, I ought to say, a little bit simpler.
That's not true.
Because you're not collecting things like dates of birth and family names and health details and stuff like that, which you need to do in financial advice.
Awesome. So you're telling us there's some good news there. There's some good news.
Yeah, there's an element of good news. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: based on the amount of information we take, like you just said, if we have to pull in not only a first and last name, not only an email address, but also date of birth or social security number or any of these other items, right?
Yeah.
You're saying that the less amount of information we take, the better off we are?
To some degree, the EU have designated certain types of data. Pure personal data is anything that can identify an individual. And one of the weird things about this is, in the past, if you were emailing someone at a company address like John at XYZ company, that wasn't considered personal. Under GDPR and e-privacy, it is. If it identifies an individual. And that also goes for an IP address as well.
So the same as IP. Okay.
Yeah. The other data, which is considered special, is things like details of health, ethnic origin, sexual preferences, stuff like that, which I wouldn't think any of you are going to collect.
No.
So that's why I say it's a bit easier. You can have name, address, telephone number, etc.
What's
now,
what can you just explain, Chris, what GDPR is in layman's terms and where it comes in with you just mentioned e-privacy. Can you mention how they fit together?
Okay. GDPR is the collection of data, whether or not it's electronic, it can be on paper. Paper records are all covered by GDPR. E-privacy really just covers email, SMS, fax, believe it or not. Some companies still use faxes. So anything that is transmitted electronically. Okay, so does that distinction make it a little bit easier to understand?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So people have been discussing, do I need to do double opt-in? Oh, that's a big one.
That excitement. The
answer is no in general, unless it's specific to a country, because someone is freely putting in their email and name, they are consenting. However, the twist in all of this is if you want to collect them to market to them in the future, you have to get specific consent. So underneath that, you're going to have a little box which says, I agree to you sending me marketing information. You can, do it up. The box cannot be pre-ticked.
Okay.
The person has to physically tick it themselves.
Yeah.
If they don't tick it, it can't go onto an autoresponder.
Listen. Okay. This sounds like the devil has taken over the marketing industry, because I'm already having difficulty with conversion. Has there been any testing done on this, adding this on there, and how much of a decrease of a conversion are people getting from this already?
Well, there's two things here. If someone is adding to your list to get a free product, you can't market, and they've not ticked the consent to be marketed to, you can send them the free product, not a problem, and anything related to that free product. So, okay, so that's what's called a legitimate interest. Okay?
Yep.
So they've consented to receive that, but they haven't consented to receive a whole stack of follow-up emails that are going to try and flog them something else.
Not us. We
Flog
don't
them-
do that sort of thing.
See, now, okay. So here is where I want to strangle the guys who actually make this regulation, because
Okay.
the only reason I'm giving them that free thing is so that I can email them over and over again.
Precisely.
Things.
Yeah. This is where it turns it on its head. It's a little bit like double opt-in. There's a thought on double opt-in that if someone double opts in, they're really interested. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of thought pattern you have. Yeah.
Okay. So if they consent to more marketing information, and you can put some words around that to say, it might be related products because you're obviously interested in what the free product is about, or what have you, or the free software, or whatever. And they consent to it, then they can go straight on the autoresponder. Now, the big thing about this also is it affects cookies.
So these cookies, wow.
So they are even thinking now that there's going to be a big change in browsers, and browsers will block cookies until someone gives consent.
Wow. So
Yeah.
Is this just speculation, or is this actually going to happen? Because that's a big.
The cookie can identify people who come back onto your website.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be personal information. For analytic purposes, it's not a problem. But for identity on a website, it is.
Wow.
And
What separates the two? What separates those two factors?
well, the analytics hasn't got any, because that's, say, Google Analytics, etc. It doesn't really identify an IP address. It just says, yeah, this person's been on this website, boom, 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 that's it. There's no personally identifiable information, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
But a cookie, if you drop a cookie on for going back to a website, that is personal information in there, because that's picking up an IP address.
So an IP address would be seen as personally identifiable.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
right. Oh, blimey. I thought you said there's good news, Chris.
Well, there's good news and bad news, because
Where's the good?
well, the good news is if someone consents, then they're interested. It's a little bit like the double opt-in.
Yeah.
In a way.
Well, let's not jump on Chris, because he's not the devil. He just works for the
Blame
devil.
someone.
So the other thing as well is, if you are marketing to EU resident citizens and your autoresponder is stationed outside the EU, you have to tell them that their details are being stored outside the EU.
Okay.
Now, you should also have a privacy policy, a written policy saying what you will and won't do with that data.
That actually brings up another point, Chris, because what I've noticed in a lot of these articles that I've been reading, I've been reading way too many articles on GDPR.
It's a nightmare.
But it says that you have to notify them on the page that they're divulging their information on, the purpose and the future intent of them, of what you'll be using that information for. So now it just seems like you're going to be spending most of your time devising a description of what you're going to be doing with the information they're providing, that you are going to be marketing to them, and how often, and all of these things. So what is a good...
Well, that's the consent, isn't it? That's this tick box, because that's telling them that you're going to market to them. You've got to hold the data to market to them.
Now, does it have to be a certain length? What are kind of, maybe, is there a checklist that we have to go through? If you can maybe give us a B, C, D breakdown of what needs to be included on that.
Basically, again, the privacy policy can be very much like a lot of the standard ones that are around at the moment, saying you're not going to sell them, you're not going to sell their data on, what have you, unless they agree to it. So there's bits within bits here. So it depends on what that website is collecting the information for. Yeah, it's to market to them, so you've got to get consent. Look at it from the individual's point of view. If you go on a website, I mean, I have quite a few different email addresses from all my time at, on and off marketing on the internet, and I get spammed to death at the moment. Absolutely. So you still need the unsubscribe in emails if someone, in the privacy policy, you tell them, if you consent to being marketed to, you can unsubscribe at any time.
Now, let me ask this question because I think it brings up a broader question of, because it's really to prevent people receiving emails that they don't want to receive. I've always assumed that if I'm giving you my email, I'm assuming that you're sending me marketing emails. Now, from what I've gathered, technically speaking, I think spam has a very wide definition apart from what it used to kind of mean. Unsolicited messages over and over again without any even prompt initially. So I never even gave you my email address and you're contacting me is kind of what my initial thought of what spam in general was. Not that I get messages daily even from. So are you saying that even if I've technically given you my information and agreed to it, I can still be a victim, if you will, of spam?
If someone doesn't obey the rules and sells that information on. The other problem that you've also got, and I've come across this quite a bit, where people have complained, basically because they've gone onto a website, they've said yes to the terms and conditions without reading them. We all do that. Now, in a lot of them, there is a little thing that says, by agreeing to these terms and conditions, you agree that we can sell your data on, or we can email you products from third parties. Okay? There isn't a tick box for them to say that. That's just in the general terms. Now, a lot of the time, those people are then not selling the leads on, they are selling a service to other people saying, you give us an HTML email, we'll send it on your behalf, we will have an unsubscribe on it, etc. But they could end up on your website giving you information, or you could send a letter to them through the normal post. Yeah, that sort of scenario. People do not remember where they've put their details. No. So I know that my old company they get a lot of complaints from people because they do not realize where they've put their data. So this consent thing is a little bit harder because of that.
Because you've got to prove it. You've basically got to prove that you got consent if there's it.
You have to keep a record of that consent.
Jesus.
And if
I'm retiring, by the way.
I just want to take this pen and shove it in my eye right now, based on all this information. All right, so we've got to notify.
Can I just mention here that breaches. For us in the UK, we have to report breaches of the data within 70 hours of 70 days, I think it is, of actually being found about it. But for breaches, which you don't report, the maximum fine, although this is at the top end, the absolute maximum fine is 20 million euros. That's million, all right, or 4% of global turnover, whichever is the higher.
Whichever is.
Boom.
Wow.
Although everyone says, there is a lower level of 10 million, but they're not going to do that. They're going to,
you know what? But I have to break out my other wallet. I've got that spare change one, right?
Okay, so I mean the 20 million etc. can hit people like Facebook, Amazon, blah blah blah, because they're global. Okay, the smaller guy is not gonna have it that hard, and I know the UK's Information Commissioner has said, yeah, we're not going to go hard on people, even if they don't comply from day one, as long as in the UK here they have to have it all written down. They have to have their data flows written down in a document to prove where it goes, what they do with it. They have to have agreements with the autoresponder people who will look after that data. So it's due diligence on the autoresponder. Okay. That applies to anyone in the UK, in the EU who is marketing.
Man, I thought we'd clear things up on this call and make it easier.
Listen, again, we are not legal professionals.
No,
we do not bear any responsibility for anything regarding GDPR and your business.
No,
you must consult your own legal professionals outside of this broadcast.
Yeah.
But Chris, okay. Listen, okay. I just want to reason with you a little bit here, okay?
He's not making the
Okay.
rules.
So you're turning me into the EU now.
Listen. I will project the regulation upon you for just the time being, and then we can become friends again.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, we've got all these things that we need to abide by May 25th. And obviously, by your description of everything, it's not very simple. It's not laid out. It's not a black and white type of a situation. Every business model will have to adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
What does the little guy do, such as myself, a solo entrepreneur that really has no black and white rules to follow? How can I, as best as possible, maintain a level of integrity within my business as to not get any legal penalties laid up on me?
Well, it's not just legal penalties, it's complaints from individual as well. Okay, because that's the first point. I mean, if you get a complaint from an individual who says, take me off your database, you've got to take them off the database. That can be your autoresponder or what have you. That can be via an unsubscribe button in an email or what have you. But the overriding thing is to get on that autoresponder, they have got to consent to being marketed to. Now, how you frame that in the wording for that goes with the tick box depends on the type of business that you're in. That is your main thing. In the USA, I think you are required to have a privacy policy.
That's right.
Yeah. There's also other disclaimers that I know you have to do for if you're selling a product that you're saying use this and make money. Then there's other disclaimers in there. That's part of either the email or that's in your privacy policy, etc. That gives more of the nitty-gritty. But this consent aspect, which probably some people have stuck in the privacy policy, saying we will market you other products which we feel might be useful to you, or information or what have you. Now it has to be specific. It has to be explicit. That is the big difference. So you need that tick box if it's going on an autoresponder.
I don't know if we're going to stay friends after this call.
And from my understanding, Chris, is retrospectively as well. So if you've got a list and you want to continue mark them, you've got to get that explicit consent. Is that
yes? Yeah, that's right.
So historically as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been to my old company. I have just deleted, you're not going to believe this, 256,000 names and addresses and email addresses off their database because they are so old.
Wow.
and they never turned into customers. We're still working through it. There's another 29,000 to look at.
So I think what Rob's saying. So you've got someone who's sitting in their bedroom. They got 100 email addresses. Do you see what I mean? They're barely making any money per month. They're probably not making profit. What about those guys who, they're just worried about making a few dollars. They don't want all this other stuff. This could destroy some people's bloody motivation. I think.
Let's open this up a little bit now. Do most autoresponders pick up an IP address?
Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Those IP addresses, you can identify which countries they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what you can do is just delete the ones that are in the EU.
I think that would require, and maybe you would know this, Wayne, that we contact the autoresponder company, because I know that if I've tried to split it up, I haven't figured it out in GetResponse or Aweber.
Yeah, what you do? Yeah, what I'd do personally is I'd use a tracking tool like ClickMagic, and anyone for starters, I'd focus on USA traffic to keep it simple, and I'd use a tracking tool that just diverts other countries to Google in case anyone got through. So that's what I'd focus your markets and efforts outside the EU. Make sure you're using a tracking tool to send anyone in the EU to Google. Not on your list, so you don't even get people on your list from inside the EU. Would that kind of cover it that way, Chris?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
So there is, and I do know a couple of big email marketers who are doing just that.
Yeah.
It's quite a sad kind of thing. But luckily, in most email and worldwide global email marketers, predominantly it's US anyway. 99% is US. The UK doesn't really come into it that much anyway. And really, the UK is the main one in the EU that is targeted because by marketers as well.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would think you guys are Russia instead of EU now. With this commie nonsense. Listen,
it's massive.
Hey,
it's just...
let me ask about the history on this, because it's been around for 2 years. Was there an event that happened that made them, do this? Like not necessarily just the passing of the law. Was there an event or series of events like data breaches or anything? I know recently we had to deal with the Cambridge Analytica situation with Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And now what is happening here in the US is talks about regulation for Facebook, right? And of course, if Facebook is the face of really social media, it's still the monster out of every platform there is, and regulations that are going to happen due to it, we can automatically assume that any other trailblazer behind Facebook will follow suit, right? With being regulated and things of that nature. And we can see that it's because of this Cambridge Analytica and something that happened even a few years prior to that with other data breaches that's causing these regulations to occur. Is there something that actually happened in the EU in the past that caused them to say, okay, we need to make this a regulation?
Right. Offhand, I can't think of anything. I mean, Google has used data on people quite a lot. But I can't think of anything offhand that's sort of sparked this off, bearing in mind that this was all started off 2 years ago. So my memory's not that good, being an older person.
But that's the thing, that with the data breaches, that kind of says us why they're done it, because you have to report them to the privacy or GDPR. To think of that, like basically, if your email list get hacked, you've got to report that to GDPR within 70 days.
We know that there've been lots of hacks in the past from all sorts. I mean, even the UK's national health system has been hacked.
Yeah.
We know various other company websites have been hacked all over the world, actually.
Yeah.
So I think it's a reaction to that. I suspect that the US and other countries may well follow and pick up on what the EU are doing.
I think they will.
You know,
I hope they do. You can feel our pain, Rob.
listen. I live in the great state and country of Texas, okay, where we kind of follow our own rules. We like our guns, and we have people who are sticklers for something known as the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And somehow, some way, marketers will figure out a way to make it connect and say this is unconstitutional, and of course, figure out another reason to use their guns against something like this in protest. Because quite honestly, this is going to hurt a lot of businesses. You know,
small businesses.
Luckily, I'm still in the beginning stages of my business. And to start over is really not that big of a deal, other than it's just gonna suck, you know. It's just gonna, okay, fine, you know what, I delete, you know, half of my email list. It wasn't that big to begin with. I can do that. I can deal with that. I make money anyway. So, but you know, that does bring me to something else, because I'm a product creator, right, for affiliate marketing, and I recruit affiliates to sell my product for me. And that does mean that when they sell it, I receive the email address the way it currently is set up. When that is when that scenario is played out, what needs to be done on like a sales page? I'm not necessarily collecting. I'm not collecting emails initially. They're purchasing a product, and then they're getting added to my email list after the fact. Do I have to now put something on a sales page?
Right. Okay. Yeah, because that's where you're going to collect their personal data.
Wow.
The sales page. Yeah. Okay. So you can keep that one-off data if you're offering a guarantee. That's keeping the data for a legitimate interest to fulfill a legal guarantee. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Something I was reading when I was delving into this area today was a working party were sort of putting together what they thought, because there are still a lot of grey areas in this legislation, such as if someone buys something from you, okay, forget the marketing angle for the moment. They bought something from you, you've given them a guarantee, what have you, 1 year, 2 years. How long do you keep that data for? Now, their thought was, if it's a short guarantee, you'd get rid of it after about 2 years. You'd delete it. Okay? Now, one of the things that you've got to think about here, and you think of Facebook, think of Amazon, if you go back onto their website, they're feeding adverts to you, which is marketing. They're using personal information. If someone doesn't want that and opts out of it, doesn't tick the consent box, they aren't going to see those adverts. I know in the UK, a hell of a lot of business is now done online. Mm-hmm. I do virtually all my shopping, not food shopping, but virtually everything else online. Now, I'm probably going to consent to be marketed to because I want to know about new products and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People are used to seeing adverts. If all of a sudden they're not seeing adverts, is this going to bring the search engines back in? So does SEO become even more important?
I hope not.
So I'm just throwing things up in the air. I don't know. I'm trying to think forward and say what's going to happen, because people are used to seeing adverts online. They buy a lot of things. I mean, it's a little bit like you're in the checkout in the supermarket and they put all those nice things by the checkout, and very often you'll buy something off there which you didn't intend to buy. It's exactly the same thing with fielding those adverts up on Amazon or wherever. So people, people's mindsets will change.
Yeah.
They may well end up by consenting to stuff like this. If they don't, then you're back to search engines, aren't you?
But then they have to consent. This is where, just before, I know we're running out of time now, Rob, but so it's literally, if they search something and there's an advert that's following them, they've been cookied or whatever, that could completely change as well. So basically, yes, the whole online business, this is changing online business, the way online business is done, because things are going to change so vastly. Facebook, if they can't show ads, they've got to make their money some other way. People are going to have to pay for it. So it just changes so many different aspects of what we used to. It's a big change.
A big thing. Yeah. I can see Rob really shaking his head there. Yeah.
I'm going to move to tech.
You've got to think outside the box here. You've got to think outside
my
the box.
box is this big at the minute. And
do you guys in the UK,
do you
guys in the UK have those commercials on TV from pharmaceutical companies about medicine?
We don't
and
get
it talks
those,
about all the side effects. No.
We
so
don't
in the
get
US,
that much.
you've probably seen those commercials maybe on YouTube or something. But in the US, they have these commercials where they're talking about these medications that are supposed to make you feel better, but then they list 13 different side effects, explosive diarrhea, vomiting, blood from your eye sockets, and then possibly death, right? I might as well take those pills for no reason than deal with this stuff. That's how excited I am about this.
It's pretty much the same as me, to be honest, mate. It's and I think the thing is as well, there's no instruction book, if you know what I mean, because I've read some of it and you just think, what on earth does this even mean? So that's why you have to get legal advice, a solicitor, to go through it and not listen to a show like this and take advice on it.
Yes, again, we are not lawyers. We just here for your entertainment and for you to dig it further for yourself. Hire a professional, somebody who can actually talk to these things legally and make sure that your business is on the up and up. The only legal advice I would give you is terrible legal advice. Like ignore it, ignore GDPR for now and see what happens. Hopefully you fly under the radar. It's kind of like bootlegging movies on the internet or, doing like a Cody box or something. You guys are no fun, okay? Because you guys did this with the Cody box as well, okay? I own a Cody box and the thing is the best thing in the world, okay? There's a gray area in the law that actually allows me to own a Cody box even with the questionable software on it because I'm not hosting the files locally. Because I'm streaming it, I'm still legal.
Really?
It's amazing.
I didn't know that.
It's amazing. They were selling these Cody boxes in the mall. At the local shop mall. Like big old thing. Stop paying cable, right? And I haven't paid for cable for 2 years.
Wow, yeah.
So the EU is no fun.
So what he's trying to say, Chris, is how do we get round it like the Cody box? No. Again, no, we're not saying that.
No, listen. This is not legal advice for you to take, my friend. Please don't. And you can send all of your complaint email to WayneCrow@trafficdomination.com. He will field all of the erroneous legal advice that we've given you today. All right, guys. So that is it. Thank you so much, Chris, for being on the show.
Thanks,
we
Chris.
really appreciate your help. This is a very serious subject, guys. Please do take it seriously. Even though we were having fun today, we were joking around today, this is a very serious issue that you can lose your business. You can lose a lot more than your business if you do not comply with these regulations in the EU. as far as the Traffic Domination Podcast and your host, Wayne Crow and Robert Reese, we are out of here. See you next week, guys.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.